Hello everyone, this is Anna from our Paper Paradise, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this mandala. Now you might be a little scared, intimidated by this, but don't be. This is actually one of my easiest classes. Everything is numbered and color-coded, and I'll go through it with you step by step so you don't have to stress about it. Once you get your kit, you'll find that it has 2 pages of instructions in there. The second page has your design, and you'll notice that all the pieces of the design have a number associated to them and the color. And all of these numbers match the numbers on your strips and the colors on your strips. So that will make it easier for you to know where to put each part of this. So you'll see all the strips are numbered. This little bag contains the smaller strips that correspond to number 8. And you also have 2 templates that we will be using to size the loose coils. On top of the things in your kit, you will also need a slotted quilling tool and some glue. You don't need this fancy bottle, you can just use Helmer's glue. Put it in a little plate or container and then use a toothpick to pick up a little bit and apply it to the strip. I just use regular Elmer's glue wall. I'm going to show you how I got the design on the piece of paper that you're going to be gluing it on at the end. So all you need is a window. You can do this on your iPad as well, use it as a light box. You take the design that is part of your instruction sheet and you tape it to the window. You might want to tape it all around if you're not practiced with this. And then you take your little watercolor sheet, place it on top. Now, I've done this so many times that I have marks here where I'm going to place my sheet so it fits perfectly with this in the center. You can measure. This is 8 by 8 and this is slightly smaller, so you can measure an equal amount on each side to make sure this will be centered, and then place your sheet over it, line it up nicely, and then you just take a pencil and you go over the shapes. If you notice, I only put the circular shapes and the teardrop and the eye shape in there. I didn't put any of the open shapes in there. There are 2 reasons for this. First, if you put shapes, if you put all this drawing in there, you are going to be kind of fighting it as you go, because you have to make sure that every little piece of paper is going to cover those marks that you already made. And that is very hard to do if you're not practiced. So make it easier on yourself and don't put all the shapes in there. Second reason is as you glue stuff down and you move your fingers over the paper, the pencil marks start to smudge and you get really nasty marks on your paper, and you don't want that. So if you feel like you still need some guidance of where the shapes will meet and all that, you can still take your watercolor paper, line it up nicely. Oops, let's see. How was it? There we go. That's the way. Lining up the marks I made there with the ones that are on the drawing. And then you can go in and just put like a little dot where the open shape is supposed to start and end, and do that all around. Like this one will start here and then here. And you can also put like a dot where it peaks, But that's about the most that I advise you doing. Do not make the whole line there. It just makes it harder on yourself. So now that we have our drawing set up on the piece of paper, we are gonna assemble the piece onto the background. Okay, so you have all you need to start, and we're going to start with tight coils. Tight coils are the easiest shape in quilling, and we are going to make all the tight coils first so you can have a really good practice of how to roll the paper. Let's start with the number 1 strip. You just slide it out of the little pocket. Now when you have this sort of thing, like 2 strips in your pattern, if you notice, it says 1 strip, but it says 16.5 inches, which if you glue these two end to end, that's what you'll get. And that's what we're going to do. A little bit of glue on the end there. I'll line it up. You want to make sure it's straight and that it dries before you start rolling. I'm going to start rolling on this hand. By the end I get to that end, it will be fine. So to roll the strips, this little tool has a slot in there. You're just going to put your strip in the slot. Let me clear this background so you have a better view. Put the strip in the slot, bring the tool all the way to the end of the strip, and then you start rolling. Now you can start rolling away from you, which is my preferred method, or towards you, whichever way feels better for you. And this will not impact your final project at all. So I like to hold the strip like this, kind of keep my finger there to give it a little support, and just roll till you reach the end. You are going to put a little dab of glue on there. And close it. Only after you do this will you take it off the quilling tool. Now if you look at it, it has a little lump there. That's perfectly fine. You just set it down and press on it with your thumb, and then it's perfectly flat. That's your first tight coil. Pieces 2 through 5 are all going to be tight coils. I have already made some beforehand to fasten the process. I'm going to go to the 2. You can see this is a lot shorter strip, but the process is the same. You just slide it in there, go to the end, start rolling. Once you reach the end, put a little bit of glue on it and close it. Give it a few seconds to hold, and then you can take it off. Same thing, you can push the side so it flattens out. Now, since this is always the same process, I'm just going to speed through it, and we'll talk at the end. You can see that regardless of the size of the strip, the process to make a tight coil is always the same. Roll the strip all the way to the end, put a little bit of glue on the end there, glue it down, take it off the tool. And those are the tight coils that we had to do for this project. Now there's something that I forgot to mention that is in your kit as well, and that is the background where you're gonna glue all your pieces at the end. This, just set it aside away from your working area. We are not going to use it until the very end after you have made all your pieces. However, we are going to use the template that comes with your instructions. How are we going to use it? Like this. We are going to take the pieces that we've been making and we can roughly place them in the spots they're supposed to be in at the end. And if you are getting confused with which piece is which, all the numbers are associated with colors, so it shouldn't be a problem. But you can also, as you make your pieces, you can put the little number associated with them next to the batch, so you remember which one is which. And you don't have to put them on the template. To me, it just helps me remember what I've already done and where the pieces are supposed to go and all that stuff. I'm not going to put the tiny little ones in because they will just fall and roll around, and that helps nothing. Next step, we got strip number 6. Strip number 6 is going to make the little flower around the center. And what we're going to start doing now is loose coils. To make the loose coils, we start exactly the same way as we did for the tight coils, which is we slide that strip into the tool, bring it all the way to the end, and start rolling. And you roll it just like the tight coil all the way to the end. But this time, instead of gluing it at the end, you are going to take it out of the tool without gluing. You should have a small template in there. There's 2 sizes. They're also numbered, so the one that has the 6 in it is for the 6 strip. So what we're going to do is going to put your tight coil on top of your template, and we're going to let it expand. And if you keep your fingers like that on both, you are going to make sure that this reaches the same size as this. And when you do that, you're good to go. You take that away. You keep holding this to make sure it doesn't expand anymore. But now you can glue the end there. This might take a little bit of practice at first, but it's not too difficult. So you do this for all 6 strips of this color. And I'm going to show you something that can happen sometimes. Now, if you look at the design, you see that these are not circles. So how do we get the shape that's in there? We are going to hold the coil at the center and then pinch one of the sides. You will notice, I'm not sure if you can see it, but the seam of where I glued it down is right there, and I always try to put it at the tip of where I pinch it. This will take some practice, but keep trying, and it doesn't matter if it's a little off, it will still be more or less hidden if it's around that area. So you hold the center and then just pinch one of the sides. And there you have a teardrop. You're going to repeat the same process for all of them. We have number 6 done. Now you can put these guys on your template. Starting to get a mandala. Next step, number 5. These will start the same as number 6. So we're going to be doing loose coils. And since we have the longer strips in this one, we have to take half a strip and one whole strip and glue them end to end. And we have to do this for all of them before we start rolling. And we're going to start rolling these guys. Now you're going to be using the template marked as 7 for the size. Same thing. End of the coil, take it off. Let it expand against the template. If it goes over the template, you just pull it a little, roll it back, and try again. Once we curled all the number 7 coils, we are going to do something similar to the red ones. As you can see, it is a shaped coil, but instead of having only one point, it has 2. So it's sort of a eye shape. And for that, you just hold it like that and you pinch both sides. And this might take a little bit of practice for you to get the shape right, but you can always move the edges and keep pinching and moving the paper around until you get the right shape. Again, I'm trying to put the seam of the paper there into one of the corners, so I will always try to do that. Okay, once you have those done, we are going to move on to step number, or using the pieces marked as 8. These little guys, you have to be careful because they're so tiny. And we're going to take the tight coils you had numbered as number 2. And what we're going to do is going to place them upwards. We're going to grab one of these guys. I'm going to put some glue right on the edge of it. And then with these little guys, I'm going to look where the seam is, and I'm going to place this right up against the seam. And you can see it immediately sticks together. You want to make sure it's lined up. And there you go, that's it for this step. You're going to repeat these with all the little tight coils. And that is number 8. We can go ahead and put them on our template. They should slide right in between the petals and touch the center there. At this stage we are done with all the bulky shapes, and we are going to start producing the open shapes that you can see here. So we are going to start with the number 9, and what we do with these guys is we're going to give them the round shape. Cardstock is stiff, so if you try and curl it without priming it first, it's going to want to bend in places. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our tool like we would do to curl ribbon, and we're just going to prime the strip. So if you use the handle, it will give you a wider curve. If you use the tip of the tool, it will give you a tighter curve. And at this point, you leave it to the side. We are not going to place these on the template. It would just be very confusing and frustrating because you keep moving stuff around. So we are just going to put these right to the side there. And we're going to keep doing this through all of number 9 and all of number 10. So 9 and 10 are all done there. I'm going to move to 11. If you look at the yellow strips here, you notice there's a point right there on that open space. So before we start curling it, we want to fold these guys in half. I'm going to fold all of them in half. As you can see, the edges are pretty straight, so we are still going to have to round them up a little bit with the technique I showed you before. So we're just going to do that to each side. As you can see, they look a little rounder. Don't worry too much how they look now, because you can manipulate them when you're gluing them down to fit the shape. Okay, that is number 11. Moving on to number 12. You can see number 12 is the green one. It mimics the yellow ones, so we're going to fold this in half before we do anything else. And then give a little curl to each side. Alright, that is number 12. Now for number 13, this is the one that has the most pieces, and we will start by curling all of them the same way we did before. This will take you a while because there's 30 of these, but as you can see, it goes pretty fast once you get the hang of it. So once you have them all curled, these are going to be pretty curls, so it doesn't matter that you do it a little more curled. You're going to grab this guy And you're going to put a little bit of glue on the edge of the strip right there. And then you're going to bring the other edge against it. And what we want is this sort of petal shape. It glues really fast, so it should be ready to let go in a minute or so. You just do the same thing to all of them once you have curled them. You can see that those are these petals here. For the sake of brevity, I had already made the other ones beforehand. So now we can go on to number 14. Number 14 is going to create the arches there. 14 is the inner arch and 15 the outer arch. And for these, we just give them a curl as well. For the orange ones and these purple ones, keep track of which ones are which, because one is shorter than the other, so they must go on the inside, or else you'll get a very weird shaped arch. All right, we have done all the shaping of the open spaces. We are down to our last piece of the mandala, and this piece might be different for all of you because it highly depends on how you roll your tool. Basically, what we're going to be doing is the filling that is going to go in between those two arches. So I'm going to teach you how to do that, and you might or might not use all the strips that I give you, whatever works for you really. So as after you put it all together, you are going to see how much you need to fill those arches. Okay, for that particular one, I'm going to move stuff around so it's easier for you to see. Okay, we have a strip. We insert the strip into the tool like before, and we're not going to move it to the end. This time we're going to start about a finger length down from the top. And what we're going to do is roll upwards. And I do 1, 2, 3 rolls. And then I take it out. I move the strip up, place the tool back into the strip, go down about a finger length again, roll up 1, 2, 3. So when you roll up 3, you should be hitting this guy, but not pushing into it. Just hitting it gently. Do not keep rolling past this guy. All right, take it out. Put it down finger length. Roll up 1, 2, 3. And you can really, if you're holding your strip, you can really pull and tighten that curl without going into the one before it. Just keep that in mind. This will take some practice. Go down another finger length. 1, 2, 3. Go down another finger length. It's not an exact science. 1, 2, 3. Down again. 1, 2, 3. And you always have to curl in the same direction, that way. That's partially why I always curl that way anyway. It just makes it easy when I'm doing this. I don't get confused. 1, 2, 3, and then we're down to the end here. 1, 2, 3. So you can see we get a little wave pattern. It should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This one has 8 little curls to it. You might have more, it might have less. It just depends on how much tension you put into it, how much distance you leave between them. So try to replicate this. If you can't, that is okay, because this is going to be filling a shape. And so long as it fills the shape, it doesn't matter as much the size or how many you have in it. And that is it for the shapes. I'm gonna continue making more of these so I have enough to fill it. But after this, all we have to do is assemble, and I'll return to show you how we do that. Now that we've done all the little pieces, we can start assembling the project. And for that, we're gonna get that piece that I told you to set aside before. If you compare it to the actual design, you will see that on here, the only things that are drawn are the tight coils and the loose coils that we shaped. The open forms are not drawn at all. So we're going to start gluing these pieces down from the center outward. And to start with, it's going to be super easy because you already laid them out and everything. You just have to pick them up, put a bit of glue on there. You don't have to cover the base completely. This doesn't need a lot of glue to stick. Now, I drew these circles inside the lines of this template. So when I'm placing this down, I want to cover the circle as much as I can. And if for some reason your shape does not cover some part of the drawn lines, just get an eraser and get in there like the back of a pencil and erase the lines that are outside of your pieces. Next, we go to the little petals. This is more or less a paint by numbers process, so you just have to place the pieces that you have already created in the right color in the right place. And if you want a little extra touch of glue in between those, you can add it. You can add glue all around it and then just clean the petals. There we go. Normally I would be working from above, but I'm way back here, so I'm not seeing exactly where everything's landing, which can be a problem. And you want to line the top of this guy with the bottom of this guy. You want to try to make this as pretty as you can. once you put the glue in there, you still have a little wiggle room until it's dry, so you can always move it around a little bit if you need to. Just moving things a little bit while the glue is still drying. Make sure we have an even distribution around the flower. Next, we place these little guys, and there's a little dot there. You are going to try and place that on top of it. To do that, we are going to place the glue on the bottom of the tight coil, and you can place a little string of glue there. If you want, you can also put a little bit of glue there. And then just slide it in between the petals and make sure it is covering that dot. That's the most important part, that it's covering the dot. All right, now we are going to start the open spaces. We are going to start with the orange, the smaller of the oranges. And these little guys are super easy. They are going to connect at the points of the petals. So that's your beginning and ending point. And for you to glue them down, you can put, let me show you here. You can put some glue on the top of the petal there, and on the top of that petal there. And then you just bring one of these guys and gently secure it against that glue. You don't need to connect it anywhere else. There we go. Oops. No, we don't. We're not going anywhere. We need a little bit more glue on here. That's the beauty of these bottles, is they have such a nice tip to get in there if you need more glue. But a toothpick will also do. Okay. Now you can do it this two ways. You can glue the small ones around, all the way around, which I recommend so you don't mix things up. I am going to do another one. See, it goes right against that one. Once you start having things set down, it's going to be easier and easier. I'm going to continue with these two, but you should make all of them around, all the small ones around, before you proceed to the next step. I'm just doing this section to save time on the video. Next step, the longer orange strips. They go on the exact same spots that the smaller ones went. So we're going to put some glue right on top of that one and right in between these guys. And slide this guy in there. notice that I'm just sliding it over and not moving it around anymore, just waiting for it to glue. The less you fidget, the easier it is on you to do these things. There we go. Now for the other one, just a little bit of glue there. That one still has some glue. Take another one and bring it to those places. Don't try to rush it. If you try to rush it, it moves and then you stress. So it's better to hold it for a little extra time than to have you frustrated about it moving. Okay. Next up, this guy. This guy is going to go right in there. It doesn't have to be pushed into it. It just needs to cover the drawing that is in there. Oops. So you just put some glue on the back. I'm going to turn it around so you can see it. And cover. Actually, I'm going to show you something. It hadn't touched the bottom yet, so I'm good with that. This is the seam, so if you want to hide the seam, you put it towards the center, which is always a good policy. There we are. So after this guy, we have the yellow open space. This one is gonna just go wherever it's gonna go. It doesn't really have a marked spot on there, so you just want it to make it so that both sides are equally distanced from the center piece. And for this one, I actually recommend you put the glue on the strip here. And then we're just gonna slide it in. We're gonna push these guys in a little bit and try to line it up as best as we can. And while the glue is not dry, you can always move it a little bit. Now, if you find that your strips are lifting too much from the bottom, you can see them lifting a little bit. You can always go in there with a little dot of glue just under the strip and then set it down. Hold it with your finger for a little bit. Next step, we are starting to do the green dots. If you look at the original design, which you have a photo of in your instruction sheet, you can see we've done all of this, and now we're going to do this. The tight coils are easy. You've already done those before. At this point, you might as well place the two blue dots that are going to be on each side of that. It will kind of help you guide the other shape. And remember that I would advise you to do all the same shapes around, then do all the same shape around, and so on and so forth. I'm only doing it this way so we don't have a 5-hour video here. Next, we have the dark green shape. It's an open shape, and this one is going to line up with the center of these guys, more or less. You can place the glue right there. Use those guys as a guide to where the center is, and then all you have to do is place it inside of the blue lines and connect it with those glue dots. The blue coils kind of help you keep this in place and guide it towards where it needs to go. I'm going to need to do another one of these in order to complete the pattern, because I need another one, another green one, to show you how this ends. Next step, also another trick you can do. This one should be touching the blue one a little more, so you can just put a little bit of glue there on the blue coil and do that. Make this one arch a little more. Okay, I'm going to place this here just to hold it in that shape for a bit so I can move on. That's another trick. If you need to hold something in place but you want to keep going, just put something that fits in that spot. Okay, the next step is to put these little guys right touching the blue coil, and we're going to do 5 of them per blue coil. So that's 5. You want to arrange them in here before you start gluing anything down, because you see they don't fit very well. So what we're going to do is we're going to squeeze them a little more so they are a little more slim. It's always better to start with them a little fatter and then shape them to where you need it. It's harder to do it the other way around. That should be enough. Let's see if they fit now. Perfect. So for this, guys, you might as well just put a string of glue along the blue coil. Don't be shy with how much you put. And then we're going to put a little dot of glue on each side of these guys. And we're just going to slide it against there. We're not going to fuss with it, just slide it against there. This one doesn't need a glue on that side because that one already has it. And you just slide it. And you can hold them in place for a little bit just to make sure they stay. Okay. Once those are done, we are going to move on to the purple. The purple is just going to be framing those guys. And at this point, you might want to go, and you can do that if this is all glued down. You can lift it and move it and there's no problem. So I might want to go to the window with this on the back and mark where these little guys hit. Show you here. Just put a little dot in pencil right there and right there to guide you when you're gluing. I'm not going to do that because I just want them to be kind of equidistant from the point of the green part there. That further so you can see. Again, not going to put a lot of glue on this, just on the edge there. And I'm going to slide it on there. Totally eyeballing it, just keeping more or less equidistance line between that, and between the points and where it hits. It doesn't have to be super perfect. Okay, that's the small purple. Now we have the bigger one. This guy needs a little more curling. And this one now has to be equidistant with that one. See, in the middle here, it's not. It's tighter. So we want to push that so it becomes equidistant. So when you glue it down, you want to make sure you're pushing the edges so it pulls out. Same thing. You don't want it to be too close, or else those guys won't fit in there. But you want to have a nice distance. Okay. Oops. Yep. I was just going to talk about this. So you don't want to move to the next step until this is fully dry. Usually by the time I go around and do all of them, the first one is already dry, so I can start placing these guys. But since we're not doing that, I'm going to let it dry a little more. And you can do this, what I did here, you can do it to this guy too, because it's not touching. So you can just put a little bit of glue there and hold it until it touches. That helps keep the shape that you want. It's another way to do it. But this is why it's important to do all the same shapes all around. The mandala is essentially very symmetrical, and you want to keep that symmetry. If you start doing everything in one direction and then everything in the other direction, it might not turn out so symmetrical. So you want to make sure that you're doing the procedure in a way that will get you the best result. Okay, so now we have these little guys. You'll notice that if you squish them, they will shrink in size. And you don't need to like flatten them. I'm just making so that the curls inward a little more. These little guys are going to go in here. You can lay a string of glue on the bottom of this before you lay them down. That way they will stick once you put them in there. I usually like to try them out in the spot before I glue them down, just from previous experience. Okay. So you'll see that this one string of mine didn't fill the whole thing. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 little curls. You can take another string and see, okay, think it needs 3 more curls, and that will be fine for that. So I just grab the scissors. There's 3 curls there. Cut them off. And then I will place them in there. And continue doing that to all of them. There you have it. A section of the mandala. You have to do this all around. Like I said, start in the center, do the same shape all around, continue outward. Be careful not to mix your shapes, because there are certain colors that have different sizes of the same shape, so keep them separate or put the little number next to them so you don't get lost. And that is about it. Good luck, and don't forget to share your results with me. Bye.